Dit is het verhaal van een gezin dat 18 jaar lang beheerst werd door een secte. Sylvia Gordon komt uit Londen. Ze is samen met haar kinderen op weg naar een stadje in het noorden van Mexico. Debbie, de oudste dochter uit het gezin, woont hier met haar 2 zoontjes. Deze hereniging vormt een onderdeel van het verwerkingsproces. Een emotioneel proces voor een Engels gezin dat jarenlang deel heeft uitgemaakt van een controversiële secte.
Where it all began 22 years ago. I came out to a Bromley North station, I turned left, and where this is all desolate now, there was a big factory, and there's a big notice which said Children of God. And this meeting with the Children of God sealed my destiny for the next 18 years.
Children of God is een van oorsprong Amerikaanse groep van jonge mensen die de wereld wilden veroveren. Die iedereen wilden bekeren. Leider van de groep was David Berg. Hij stichtte de organisatie aan het eind van de jaren 60 in Californië. Sylvia Gordon was toen 22 jaar oud. Zoals veel jongeren in die tijd reisde zij over de hele wereld. In Costa Rica ontmoette ze Arnaldo Padilla. Ze trouwde met hem in 1964. Ze kregen 2 kinderen en gingen terug naar Engeland.
When we met the Children of God, we felt this was exactly what we were looking for, something with the fire and dynamism that we wanted. So we joined them. They gave us intensive training and they gave us our mission. And our mission was to go to Costa Rica and to capture it for Jesus. We just left everything behind and threw everything into it, all our worldly possessions, picked up a little camper, and we traveled down all the way through the States to Mexico. The traveling was exciting, but every time we stopped at one of their colonies, I would feel tremendous pressure. They were very pushy and very bossy, and I couldn't understand why they weren't particularly nice to us. And I thought at the time, well, it's because they're pushy Americans. And they were very young. They're sort of ex-hippies. And I thought they're quite young in their Christian life. They haven't learned love and tolerance yet. And I put up with a lot of rather unpleasant behavior, actually. But when we were on our own, we found it quite exciting.
In Costa Rica boden Sylvia en haar man onderdak aan een grote groep jongeren van de secte. Hun kinderen waren toen nog klein.
There it is, Debbie. Yeah. That's the house. That's the house where you were born from. That's the house I brought the children of God to, where all this started. You see how small it is? Do you know we had up to 30 Children of God members actually living there, not visiting, but actually living there at a time.
30?
30. But this house actually belonged to your grandfather, he let us use. And when he came to visit, he had no idea there's so many people coming, and we hid people in the cupboards. So it looked like just we were living there. I had a leader who was only 19 years old, and because this was my house before I joined, I automatically went into the kitchen to do something. And I got thoroughly rebuked up and down, and I was told I must never go in the kitchen without knocking, that it wasn't my house anymore. It was really, it was a crazy situation. And believe it or not, it was bizarre. It was bizarre. Do you know what it looks to me like? What? It looks exactly the same. It seems like all that time was like a dream.
And there's old Sikh really talking it to him. She's quite an evangelist, and she really has the fire, and she really can get them stirred up and praising the Lord. Quite a slew of kids. They couldn't believe how many children we had when we showed up with a couple of bus loads, and more than half of us were children.
I thought I was getting the children into actually the best Christian group that was existence in the world, and so I thought even if it was tough, we'd surely get blessed by it.
And that was one of the biggest accomplishments of the entire meeting, that everybody together decided to follow Jesus.
At that time, it was complete obedience to leadership. I had to go to those meetings. It was very, very strict. And if you queried anything, you were soundly rebuked. I mean, so that fear was put into you. It was very, very unpleasant.
Secteleider David Berg formuleerde strikte leefregels voor de Children of God. Er gebeurde eigenlijk niets zonder zijn toestemming. Toch kende bijna geen enkel sectelid hem persoonlijk. David Berg communiceerde met zijn volgelingen via stripboeken, waarin hij als een wijze oude vader werd afgebeeld. Er mochten geen foto's van hem gemaakt worden. En zijn verblijfplaats werd zorgvuldig geheim gehouden.
Welcome to Mexico. We're Solomon and Katrina. We're presently working here as nurses. And we want to welcome you to our second yes.
De secteleden maakten videofilms voor hun leider.
God bless you. We're so thankful to have this opportunity to be able to share with you what's going on here in Mexico and Central America.
Het dagelijks leven in de communes van de secte werd gefilmd om David Berg te laten zien hoe de secteleden zich inzetten om zijn ideeën waar te maken. Er zijn in de loop der jaren duizenden van dit soort films gemaakt. David Berg schreef brieven om zijn boodschap te verkondigen. Hij gebruikte daarbij de naam Mo, een afkorting van Moses David. Zo noemde hij zichzelf. Hij wilde aangesproken worden met vader David of met grootvader. De brieven van Mo waren een soort pamfletten. Stripverhalen met semi-religieuze tekeningen waarin werd vastgelegd hoe de secteleden moesten leven.
I believed his writings implicitly. I used to read his writings and used to think that they were inspired by God. And so I would believe them, I'd obey them.
Here Sikh is teaching a class on the end time, really trying to give the children the end time vision and what should they do.
David Berg kondigde het einde van de wereld aan. Hij wist precies wanneer dat zou gebeuren. Christus zou in 1993 terugkeren op de wereld.
Because there was a tentative year for the second coming of Christ, there was this big pressure, get as many souls as you can and stock up with food because there's going to be tough times coming, so you don't have to be caught out.
What year were you told that Christ was
We
going
were
to
told
come?
1993. And it seemed a long time away at that particular time. So it seemed highly possible, taking into account all the different things that were happening in the world.
So everything you were doing was geared up to the fact that Christ would come back in 1993?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
My mommy is having a baby. It's coming from heaven above. My mommy is having a baby. We'll give him a name. It's all been arranged, but most important of all, we'll give him our love.
David Berg was een uitgesproken tegenstander van anticonceptie. Vrouwen moesten veel kinderen krijgen, vond hij.
Okay, I know we don't have to go back.
Sylvia had 2 dochters toen ze in Costa Rica aankwam. Ze kreeg nog 2 meisjes. In 1973 werd Miriam geboren. En het jaar daarop Victoria. In 1975 en 1976 bracht ze 2 jongetjes ter wereld. En een paar jaar later kreeg ze nog een 7e kind. Opnieuw een meisje.
I never wanted to have as many children as I did have. Obviously, I mean, in this modern world, to have 7 children is a tremendous amount. But you felt that you were giving birth to your children in a group that was in the center of God's will, that he'd look after your children and give you the physical and spiritual strength for them.
Do it right now. When you're asked to sweep the floor, do it right now. Do it right now. Do it right now. Do it right now. When someone says,
please close the door.
Do it right now. Do it right now. Do it right now.
Everything we did was controlled because Grandpa said so in the letters. Everything he said in the letters was followed. Absolutely everything. Like, for example, how to wipe your butt. Seriously, 3 sheets of toilet paper and no more, because it's a waste of the Lord's money.
We were told how much coffee or tea we could drink a day. 2 cups, no more, otherwise you're walking in disobedience. We could never go out alone. You always had to go out with a partner. You had to do things the way Berg had laid down all these little physical laws, how you were supposed to have your hair, or how you're supposed to, whether you wear makeup or not, whether you wear skirts or trousers.
Kitty-bitty videos provide hours of delightful and wholesome entertainment that the whole family will want to watch again and again.
Always best. Do it 'cause Daddy said so. Do it 'cause Daddy said so. Do it 'cause Daddy said so. Trust, obey and do it 'cause Daddy...
David Berg propageerde ook heel andere zaken in zijn brieven aan de secte. Op een bizarre manier combineerde hij geloof met seks. Bij sommige secteleden riep dat weerstand op. Maar David Berg ging steeds verder om de secteleden te overtuigen.
Love is everything, for without love there is nothing. No friends, no families, or fathers or mothers, or children, or sex, or health, or happiness, or God, or heaven. There could be none of these without love.
Een van de belangrijkste doctrines van David Berg was dat de Children of God alles met elkaar moesten delen. Sharing heette dat. En seks hoorde daarbij.
These letters were coming out and I was convinced that it was like a duty. I thought I was doing the right thing. It sounds incredible, doesn't it?
Can you remember when you first took that plunge and did share with someone else?
Yes, I remember it very clearly. I had to take 2 stiff scotches beforehand. I was very nervous about it. I mean, sometimes you're revolted. I mean, some of them just were plain unattractive. You just didn't want to have anything to do with them. But if you asked and you refused, you were going to be labeled selfish, unloving, uncaring, and that you didn't really belong in God's end-time movement, the best movement on the earth, you see. And so that you felt that you were insufficient, that you weren't enough, and that you were failing somehow.
And you never felt it was degrading or humiliating?
Oh, it was humiliating, yes.
We felt a bit lost, you know, because it caused a lot of division.
And we had jealousy problems too. It really bothered me that young men in their 20s would come and want to share with my mom, who was a mother of already like 5 children, and she was a lady, you know.
I tried to be very discreet, but there's no way in which you can hide things from children. I was naive enough to think I could hide it from children, but they knew, and they suffered. They really suffered from terrible insecurity because of it.
Oh, yes, I remember we were having a sort of fellowship in our house in Costa Rica, and 6 o'clock came along and everybody started leaving, and this one particular uncle would not budge. And I was like, Mum, when is Simon going, you know? And she was like, oh, I don't know, you know. And she was sort of like trying to get us to bed. Our bedtime was 8 o'clock, you know. Mummy, Simon hasn't gone yet, you know. All of us kids were asking her, why hasn't Simon left? I remember at about 10 o'clock, when I was supposed to be asleep, I couldn't go to sleep, I went to knock on Mum's door. And so she opens the door a little bit and squeezes herself out and closes the door behind her. She says, yes, you know. And I was like, and I knew what was going on, and she knew that I knew as well. And she was very embarrassed, you know. She didn't want us children to know. And I remember just going back to bed, I made some stupid excuse. Oh, you know, I just wanted to see how she'd react, to see if the guy was really there. And so I went back to bed and I told Victoria, guess what, you know? Oh, yuck, what a pig, you know, how dare he? We were really upset, you know. And I was very upset at my mom. I literally hated her because I felt so insecure, you know.
Even sunshine is God's love to you. It is the light and power that shows his love by making the world go round. Lovemaking is all the physical illustration of what God does to us through the power and light of his love. Love is the power and light of God.
Sylvia Gordon bleef in de secte, ondanks het feit dat ze moeite had met de seksuele verplichtingen ten opzichte van de andere secteleden. En ondanks het feit dat haar man seksuele contacten had met andere vrouwen binnen de secte.
You've given up everything and you really have nowhere to go. You've given up money, houses, career. If you've been many years there, you can't even work, and you've got a lot of children. Those are physical reasons, but it's the spiritual. Mind control is the stronger one that keeps you there. You are under this total conviction that you're walking out of God's will, that something horrible will happen to you if you leave, because you are losing his protection upon your life. You are actually conditioned to think that the outside world, although there are many lovely people in it, that they are all under the control of the devil. There's that all-over business of knowing that you belong to something that was actually controlling you, which stopped that sense of normality and real freedom. It was like this invisible cord holding you.
De secte groeide en alle secteleden kregen de opdracht om nog meer zieltjes te gaan winnen. Ze moesten actiever nieuwe aanhangers gaan werven.
Take the stand and heed the call from heaven above.
And now for a witnessing adventure. Here are the teens going out in the van. Normally we try and divide them up between the other homes. Here's one team going into the main way that we've been witnessing, and that's going into offices. Sorry, it's a bit dark. This manager of this bank would never refuse a little child asking him to pray with him.
De secte kreeg een nieuwe naam, de Family. En de organisatie begon een grote campagne om de wereld te veroveren. Het ware geloof van de Children of God moest in alle landen verspreid worden.
to go, armed with faith.
Dear Esther winning hearts with her charm.
We're the end time army.
Secteleider David Berg kwam met nieuwe manieren om zieltjes te winnen. De vrouwen in de secte moesten mannen gaan verleiden. Flirty fishing noemde hij dat.
Flirty fishing was considered going to the ultimate to win a soul for Christ. If he's hungry, you'll feed him, and then it goes on even further. If he needs sex, you'll give him that too. If that's what it takes to win him.
Was this literally going out to bars or to hotels to pick up men?
It sounds rather crude that way, because when you're sincere, you didn't look on it that way. You looked at you're going out and you're going to, by your physical charms, attract someone and talk to them. And if you could win them for Christ without giving them everything, that was so much, as far as I was concerned, that was so much the better. But there were occasions in which we went all the way. A lot of the homes turned into pretty much brothels. It was like the whole temple worship. You know, the girls were just there.
And if the men gave you money, then that was fine?
Yeah. In fact, there was a letter that came out which said, make it pay. In other words, if you're giving them everything, they may as well pay you.
And your husband and your children all knew that you were having to do this flirty fishing?
Well, yes, they did. I must say again, it was rare in my case, actually. It was rare. But on the rare occasions, they did know. I thought the children didn't, but they did.
When I smelled perfume in the air, when I saw her put lipstick on, I knew.
How old were you then?
I was between the ages of about 7 and 10. That was the worst times. That's when she went out the most.
Victoria herinnert zich dat ze op een avond thuis kwam. Haar moeder was er niet. Ze was een weekend weg met een man die ze had verleid.
I felt rotten. I couldn't believe it. I felt betrayed by my own mother, you know. That I should be away and come back and not see her there. I just felt, especially seeing that she was with another man, that was even worse. I asked her, I said, Mom, did you sleep in the same room as this man, or did you sleep in separate rooms? And she said, mind your own business. And that just cut me up into little pieces, you know. I just felt awful, because I knew what the answer was. I knew that she was with him.
A lot of this effing, as they call it, got out of hand because the women were almost like virtual slaves. Childbearing, cleaning house, cooking, then they're having extra time, they're out on the streets winning people, selling their tapes and posters. So when the idea of actually sitting in a rather nice hotel having a meal with someone who's paying you a bit of attention, it's almost like heaven, it's a break. It was selfish. If I'd known my daughter's coming back, I wouldn't have gone. But I know it's had a devastating effect. I've tried to explain to her, but she finds it very hard to understand. And I feel very, very, very bad about it.
Can you believe now that you were allowed to get yourself into such a position?
I mean, I wish I hadn't, but I can believe it because I know what it's like to actually have my mind controlled. And I believe that someone whose mind is controlled, it can be capable of doing almost anything if it's presented in the right way.
Hey, this is great. Okay, girls, but don't cover up too quick. You know, Dad likes a nice long look. So, after all, he doesn't get to appreciate your beauty that often, so. Yeah. We're just showing how we bed down here at night.
We love you.
Love you.
Love you. Hi, Daddy, I love you. I hope you're here, right here next to me. I'm dreaming about you tonight. Good night.
I love you so much, especially when you said you'd kiss my sexy lips. I just love that. Good night.
Thank you. We love you.
We love you. Good night.
In 1976 verhuisde het gezin naar San José, de hoofdstad van Costa Rica. De terugkeer naar dit huis, jaren later, roept emotionele herinneringen op. Daarbij staat Julie, het oudste meisje uit het gezin, centraal. Toen ze net 15 was, werd ze ernstig ziek. Haar immuunsysteem werkte niet meer. Julie was, net als haar ouders, een toegewijd lid van de secte.
She couldn't go out in the hot sunshine because it exaggerated all her symptoms. So she was very, very bored. And she'd read a lot of books. Now, we were not allowed in the group to read books. It was considered time-wasting and worldly. And my husband was very legalistic about this book-reading business. He said, we're not supposed to read books. And so in the end, so we were having these big arguments about it. So she wrote to Berg himself a letter saying, you know, that I've got this illness, I'm at home all day, and I like to read books. My mummy says I can, but my dad says I can't. And this letter was printed with a comment by Berg afterwards, and saying, well, perhaps lupus is the answer. In other words, implying that because she was disobedient in reading books, that was why she got sick. It absolutely devastated her. We were encouraged in the group not to take any kind of medicine. We were not forbidden, but you felt that if you did take it, you were failing somehow. You felt really guilty. And she felt guilty that she was actually totally dependent upon drugs because she'd feel so ill without them. And because of this guilt trip they put you on, the poor girl would feel totally inadequate. She felt she was failing God. What had she done wrong? She said, what have I done wrong? She would like pray and feel really dreadful.
In 1982 verergerde de ziekte van Julie. En tegelijkertijd begon het meisje steeds meer te twijfelen over de medicijnen die ze gebruikte. Ze voelde zich schuldig. Uiteindelijk weigerde Julie met instemming van haar ouders verdere behandeling door een dokter.
My sister was really sick and she'd been unconscious for about 3 days and she was sitting on a big chair right here. It's a big soft chair right here. And I was feeding her some soup. And I was the only one in the room. And she just died right there. She just breathed everything out. And I remember just standing here, going like this. Standing here. And just couldn't believe it. I was just like, I just couldn't move. I just froze to this piece of wall right here. Just looking and not knowing what to do. And I felt so bad that my mom had to come in and find out that she died, you know. And then Mom came in, and I was in such a horrible state. I just walked out. And I had to go out to the house. I couldn't stay in the house. And one of the worst shocks that has ever happened in my life was when I walked back in, and I was going to the kitchen, and I had a look in the room. Door was about that much open, and I saw my sister's body lying on the bed with her head covered with a sheet, and that was just absolutely horrible. That was really terrible. There was a lot of trauma, really. It was hell on earth.
What was the reaction of the children of God to the death of your daughter?
Do you know, they never came to pray for me or for her. I got one little card from some leaders. It was an embarrassment to them, I believe. I actually think now, looking back on it, it was an embarrassment because it was a failure. No one's supposed to die in the children of God. No one's supposed to get sick in the children of God. Still kept faithful to the group. Amazing, isn't it? It shows that control is totally abnormal. It's not a normal thing.
My parents didn't click or didn't twig. You see, because my parents were brainwashed at this point as well, they believed that, you know, God could have healed her, but, you know, but the Lord decided to take her home because she was too good for this world and all this, you know. I think she had a lot to offer to this world, and I feel very cheated. And I wish she were alive today.
Julie was 17 toen ze stierf. Haar ouders waren op dat moment 11 jaar lid van de secte. Secteleider David Berg schreef een paar maanden later over Julie in een van zijn pamfletten.
He wrote this sort of dream he had about Julie. He went to heaven, and according to him, he saw Julie there. And of course, his perverted mind went into, oh yes, and I had sex with Julie in heaven, you know. And he went into some very gory details. And I remember I was extremely offended. And my sister Debbie, myself and Victoria, we got together and we thought, what a pervert. How dare he talk about our dead sister like this? How dare he?
Seks ging een steeds belangrijke rol spelen in de secte. En het bleef niet beperkt tot volwassen secteleden. Victoria en haar zusje Debbie werden, net als de andere kinderen in de secte, constant geconfronteerd met seks.
I had an education of sex at an age where you should be completely ignorant. You should be completely oblivious to it. I mean, this preoccupation with it, I didn't think it was right. I never did. I thought, isn't there more to life than just talking about sex, sex, sex all the time?
Miriam, links in beeld op deze Children of God video, werd al heel jong lastiggevallen door mannen in de secte.
You have to sort of grow up quick. So you're in the kitchen washing dishes and a guy comes up and hugs you and starts groping at your breasts and starts squeezing your bum and slobbering all over your neck, and you just learn to grin and bear it. That's what it's all about. It was so open. People would have a party, people would strip and start, you know, having sex in the bedrooms. One time when I was 11, there was this party going on. And they started to have these sort of like strip dance things. And they wanted us kids to do it too. So some of the kids went ahead and did it. And they tried to get me to strip as well. I was so scared. I was shitting myself. I thought, these people could do anything to me. These people could do anything they want. And I can't do anything because I'm only little. Because I'm only a child. So I got, you know, honey, why don't you share your body? You know, God gave you such a beautiful body, you know. They try to get into your brain and tell you that Jesus wants you to do it. And I said, no, I don't want to. And I went into the loo and I locked myself in the loo and I cried my eyes out.
Maar uiteindelijk werd de druk vanuit de groep te sterk. Miriam was 14 en Victoria was 13... toen ze voor het eerst een striptease deden voor de secteleden. De 3 meisjes werden steeds vaker het slachtoffer van de seksuele vrijheid die de secteleider predikte. David Berg maakte in een van zijn pamfletten duidelijk dat hij vond dat seksueel contact met kinderen heel gewoon was. En een aantal secteleden volgden gretig de aanwijzingen van hun leider. Er werden door de secteleden videofilms gemaakt van kinderen die een striptease act uitvoerden. De tapes werden naar de secteleider gestuurd. Seksueel misbruik van kinderen werd gewoon bij de Children of God. Niemand deed er moeilijk over, want de secteleider propageerde het. Victoria en Debbie werden misbruikt door secteleden die in het huis van het gezin verbleven. En ze durfden er niet over te praten.
I was sitting in a room with the children in it. Our room, like with our bunk beds and so on. And I was wearing a night dress and he just started, you know, fondling me and so on. And I felt very guilty about it. You know, I just tried to forget it. It was only one incident, but I was only 7. I was very young. And it disturbed me quite a bit.
When I was about 9 and a half, he started to abuse me. I don't know, he used to drink a lot. I don't know if it was the influence of the cog and mixed with the alcohol and the molleters, but he seemed to like get off on abusing me and coming in my bedroom at nights and bothering me. It was really horrible because he controlled me in every way, you know, because he also he disciplined me and he spanked me and slapped me and stuff and showed his authority over me. But then at nights it was something else. He had me as if I was his woman or something, you know. And I never talked to him about it. I was really scared. And I was really scared to tell my parents too. He was a member of the Children of God. He would read the letters. He would sing the songs. He would witness, and he'd abuse me.
Something suddenly clicked. I saw her looking very pretty at 12, and I said, "He's not trying to sort of hold your hand or something like that, is he?" And she said, "Well, sort of." And then the whole story came out. And my husband was away at the time, and I just thought, what do I do? This is absolutely terrible. And when this man was out, and when he came in, I didn't even question him, didn't even ask him. I believed my daughter, and I told him he was out. And he did confess it to me. And I said, "You're out."
But your own daughter had been systematically abused for 3 years from the age of 9. You found out, and your reaction still was not to leave the group.
I thought it was him. I thought it was that guy. I did not realize that it was a all-pervading spirit of immorality that was just covering the whole group.
At the end of the take, I was masturbating to you, and when I came, I broke out in strong tongues. I couldn't control it. And the last few words were, "Father, I love you." And
Amen.
Sorry.
Joan is shy a little bit, but it was really a beautiful experience.
Ook deze video werd gemaakt voor secteleider David Berg. Justitiële autoriteiten in verschillende landen begonnen een onderzoek toen geruchten over de seksuele activiteiten van de leden van de secte naar buiten kwamen. David Berg was inmiddels 70. Hij verscheen niet meer in het openbaar. Dit is de laatste foto die van hem naar buiten is gekomen. Maar hij bleef zijn boodschap uitdragen via pamfletten. De secteleider gaf zijn volgelingen het advies om te vertrekken naar landen waar de Children of God nog niet bekend waren. Op die manier konden de autoriteiten geen grip op de secte krijgen. Sylvia Gordon en haar gezin vertrokken uit Costa Rica. Sylvia zwierf 2 jaar met haar gezin door Midden-Amerika en kwam in 1989 in Mexico terecht. Debbie, Miriam en Victoria waren intussen tieners. Children of God bepaalden nog steeds wat ze wel en wat ze niet mochten doen.
I toed the line. I toed the line at least outwardly. In my outward appearance, I was a good girl in the group. I was reliable and I was obedient. But within me, I used to wonder, is this going to be all my life? Is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Having people tell me what to do all the time, not being able to make my own decisions, not even being able to make my own decisions about what I'm going to wear or what I'm going to do tomorrow. They were constantly drilling into your brain that you're not going to live more than you're at least 25 is the most you're going to live, you know. So therefore, there's no need to study. There's no need for a career. The only thing that you're supposed to do is to be faithful unto the end, faithful in the little things.
Omdat het einde van de wereld naderde, moesten de secteleden steeds meer zieltjes proberen te winnen. Children of God ontplooide activiteiten in toeristencentra rond Acapulco. Victoria, Miriam en Debbie kregen opdracht om te gaan optreden om nieuwe secteleden te werven.
Definitely had to smile through our pain and sorrow.
You bet we did. Do you remember how they control, like, we all feel the same inside? Remember that song?
Oh, yes.
How'd it go, Mir? And we all feel the same inside. And we all want to do or die. We believe that it's possible to live on love. And we love you, David, our king. That's ridiculous. I don't think anybody and we will follow you through everything.
And that's absolutely
That's
true.
true.
No, we
We
did follow him through everything, you know.
Through everything.
If he would have told us, you know, set yourselves on fire, we probably would have done that. Seriously.
The real
Well, you were supposed to burn free, honey. Remember?
Praise the Lord.
Remember that song, Are You Willing to Be a Fighter? Remember that song? Are you willing to be a fighter?
Secteleider David Berg begon veranderingen door te voeren. Voor een deel uit angst voor aids. Er kwam een eind aan het versieren en verleiden van mogelijke nieuwe volgelingen. Het flirty fishing. Er kwamen nieuwe regels voor het vrije seksuele verkeer tussen de secteleden. En het seksueel misbruik van kinderen werd ineens officieel binnen de secte verboden. Maar voor Debbie kwam die nieuwe regel te laat. Al vanaf haar 15e werd ze misbruikt door de secteleden.
Because I was young, the leaders would go after me. And I would have to share with the leaders, which was worse. Because I probably could refuse another person and maybe get told off by it, but I could not refuse a leader.
So as soon as you were 15, the leaders of the group would force you to have sex with them?
Yes, I had to. It made me feel really, I don't know, really unclean.
Debbie raakte zwanger van een van de oudere secteleden, een getrouwde man. Ze was toen net 18. Richie werd geboren in 1988. Children of God had er weer een zieltje bij. Amper een jaar later raakte Debbie opnieuw zwanger van een ander sectelid. Haar tweede zoontje, Jamie, werd ook in Mexico geboren. Sylvia keerde met de andere kinderen terug naar Engeland. Miriam, die toen 16 was, werd naar een commune van Children of God in Londen gestuurd. Ze twijfelde over de secte, maar wist geen uitweg.
I really thought I was going to end up married off to someone I probably didn't love. And I'd probably end up being another baby factory, like all the other women in the group are. And for me, that was the most claustrophobic feeling ever. I used to look out this window. I used to wonder if I ever could drive a car myself, you know. And I thought, forget it, you know, there's just no way you're ever going to drive a car. I feel sick in here. Should we go? Oh gosh, it just brings me back so much claustrophobia. It's just nasty.
Why didn't you just walk out of the door?
Because I didn't know anything else.
Why not? Why just
because
go
I
out
was
of the house?
Because you just don't do that. Where would I go? That thought didn't even enter my head. You know, it wasn't because I was stupid, no. It's because you're programmed into thinking that if you ever leave, something really terrible is going to happen to you. A car is going to come by and hit you. You're going to get raped, mugged. The system, the outside world is evil.
Miriam wilde terug naar haar moeder, maar dat mocht niet. Children of God wilde haar onder controle houden. Ze mocht alleen contact hebben met haar moeder als er andere secteleden bij waren.
I just didn't believe it. I'd put up with all sorts of things before by putting the blame on individuals. But this was actually a policy that was so totally un-Christian, so totally unnatural, that I just refused to accept it. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Voor het eerst in 18 jaar kwam Sylvia in opstand. Ze negeerde de regels van David Berg. Ze haalde haar dochter naar huis.
And they bugged me in a train. And when I got home, I thought, what a relief. I'm never going back. Never going back. And I never went back. I thought, freedom, freedom, you know.
Het gezin werd herenigd. De macht die de secte jarenlang had gehad, werd gebroken. Sylvia, Miriam en Victoria wilden niets meer te maken hebben met de Children of God.
It was very hard for us to leave. It was 18 years of total commitment. But I wasn't going to live in a society that could control us to such a tremendous degree to say when we should not see our own children.
Debbie, die met haar 2 zoontjes was achtergebleven in Mexico, kreeg te horen dat ze geen contact meer mocht hebben met haar moeder en haar zusjes. Toen Children of God haar wilde dwingen om te trouwen met een van de secteleden, brak ook Debbie met het verleden.
They shouldn't exist. It's got no meaning at all. Because everything this David Berg prophesied never happened.